riding the breeze, in the sky you're floating. I'm riding my soul, and I'm so free. I'm not letting go, forever holding. I'm riding my soul. I'm riding my soul. I'm free. I'm riding my soul. I'm riding my soul. I'm free. Riding my soul. My soul. Yes, baby. Climbing on the floor, forever holding. I am imagine the sweetest moment. You're riding the breeze, in the sky you're floating. I'm riding my soul, and I'm so free. I'm not letting go.
They say life is short. You must live every day as if it's going to be your last.
Pop me up! Let's drink!
That's exactly how I used to live. Until
Why must I bring you from the zoo, Mommy?
I became a baby mama.
Hey ladies, we slay all day. Hey baby, don't come here with your cheap flattery. Why are you so angry? You know what you need to do? This part of your body, you need to use it to get laid. Get laid.
Who says I am not getting laid? Boutique hotel
Oh.
somewhere.
What's this, Chantal?
A pregnancy test skin and it's positive.
I'm still young and there's things I want to do. There's these new sneakers coming out.
I just expected more from someone who was raised by a single mother.
I still love you. And I know that you like me. But I want you to love me again.
Girl, I was with Caesar.
Same Caesar who kicked you out of the house in the middle of the night.
He's better.
Ntutuko,
Would you rather your child goes to bed hungry than Tutuk?
Of course not, Sandy, but that's not. I don't earn enough money.
I'll see you in court.
Court. Sandy.
Keenan. He hung up.
Caesar, baby, your phone's ringing.
You have no business going through my phone. Get the hell out of my house right now.
I truly believe that there's good men out there.
They are, and they're all after Tony.
Michael.
Maybe we can grab a bite together.
When are you guys kissing?
Who says we haven't already?
You are such an embarrassment.
Is that how you got pregnant with Seppo? With a peck on the cheek?
I'm going to keep the baby.
Maybe we can have a weekend away.
Road trip. Road trip. You know you want it.
Road trip.
No matter what they say. I promise I'll love you forever, every night and day. Girl, you color my world like a rainbow.
To the amazing woman in my life, may we find true love. May we appreciate it once we have it. And may we never, ever, ever settle for less.
I love you. Please don't deprive yourself of a sex life because of that baby that's growing in your belly. Please do it.
Thank
and
you,
don't make
John.
another one.
Lemini ngikhumbuza unyaka utata umaduka ngayojaba naye.
Where did you deliver the letter to? The warning letter, man.
Utata wakho wayesebenzela i-ANC. Ngimnqolobe. Utata wakho bambulalela nje into yoba wanginika abantu ithemba. Loo nto nje iyodwa ibonisa uba zibaluleke kanjani ezo leta. Utata wakho ubhubhele qhawe. Ubhubhelethela kufa.
Hi, everybody. Hi, ladies. So today is the first masterclass of the Women's Month, right? Which is powered by the Gauteng Film Commission, known as the GFC. So I'll be facilitating today's talk, and my name is Naledi Buhaju, all right? So before we go any further, please keep in mind that these masterclasses will be happening from today up until the 18th of August. So please be in the loop, be on the lookout for them, because they are amazing, amazing speakers from our industry who will be sharing all their experiences with us on these platforms. So today we are discussing and celebrating women who have broken the barriers in this industry, right? Amazing, amazing women with me today. And we're speaking entrepreneurship. We're speaking sustaining ourselves in the industry. We're speaking the future of women in this film and television industry. So let me introduce my people. I'm sure you can see all of them and you're excited. So the first person I'll introduce is Doretta Neal, right? So Doretta is a powerhouse. She is skilled in various, like a lot, right, of sectors within our industry. And she has worked on stage, in front of the camera, and behind the camera. So this is somebody who's going to be sharing a lot of experience with us from when she broke in up until where she's actually going. Then the second person, we're speaking about multi-talented, Miss Triple Threat, Miss Jack of all trades, you name it, right? We are speaking to Salamina Mosese. So welcome, Salamina. And then lastly, but not least, we have one of the very few. And when I say very few, I mean like very rare, like it doesn't happen, right? We have a female film director, guys. A female film director with us, Stefina Zwane. And she has worked in TV, in advertising, in film. You just wonder how in such a male-dominated industry, right? So these are the women I'm with today, and we will be discussing our industry and how incredible it has been, how difficult it has been, how to beat the challenges that we face, and where we're going as an industry. So welcome, ladies. How are you today?
Hi, Naledi. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
Well, thanks.
Yes. So I'll start with Salamina, all right? So can you tell us a little bit about yourself, where you grew up, and why you chose this industry? And then from Salamina, we'll go to Doretta, and then Doretta just pitch in that as well, and then Stefina. So you go, Salamina.
Cool. Thank you so much. So I think I was a regular kid who loved to watch TV. At the time we were growing up, kids' TV was a big deal still, especially the variety programs. And I didn't necessarily dream of being on TV as such. I just knew it was something that really interested me. So I like to say that the industry chose me because it so happened that my mom saw an advertisement for a new agency that was starting in Midrand, which is where I grew up. And she decided to keep me and my siblings out of trouble, that we should join this agency. See, it seems like they like TV. Maybe this will keep them busy going to auditions, etc. And so started my love affair with this industry. So my first job was as a kids actress on Soul Buddies, which was an edutainment series that actually became very, very popular. But you know, for me, it was life-changing in the sense that it made me realize that I had actually always wanted to be in the industry. I'd never thought about how you start, where you would join. It just wasn't in my orbit until I started on Soul Buddies. And then after that, many other jobs came. And then really the decision to go behind the scenes came many, many years after. And that was after I met this incredible woman who's in the other window, Stefina. We met in high school when we were both kids' TV presenters. And by the time Varsity came, we had dreams of owning our own production company. And that, of course, only came many, many years later. So that's the summarized version.
Thank you, Doretta.
It seems we all came a long way, hey, to get where we are. Yes, I started acting when I was very young. But at some point, I kind of got bored with one, waiting for the phone to ring, and two, playing the dumb blonde, because that was it. I was always the one running around in my underwear, hiding from the wife, and at some point you kind of go, okay, enough. So then I started and tried my hand at writing, first for stage for myself, and eventually was lucky enough to get into television writing, work myself up to script editor, story editor. I now work across the board in various genres for various channels, in soap, sitcom, drama, for Moja Love, SABC, whoever, I'm like a gun for hire or a pen for hire. Or fingers for hire. Yes. So, and then about 2 years ago, I started thinking maybe I should challenge myself and go into a different line again, and got involved in animation because it's a hugely growing industry. And in South Africa, it's still relatively small. So it's easy to almost get a foot in the door, I thought. Huh. Well, famous last words. Anyway, I then developed, with the help of the NVF, a short film that I managed to produce and make. And I then realized that animation is a total different monster from live action, where live action, you can, it's a process to get money. But once you have money, you can kind of get it going and finish it. Animation takes literally years. So it's quite challenging, but very interesting and a fascinating industry. And that's it in a nutshell.
Steph?
Sure. I think I enjoy listening to the two ladies more. Yeah, I think I grew up in Joburg, in Jubed Park. And just before we finished high school, I then was also taken for auditions by our drama teacher, and it happened to be for Crazy. And that's how I started in front of camera as a kids TV presenter on Crazy, and which is where I met Sal, as she's mentioned. And as we grew older, I wanted to act more, and then I went into acting, did some soapies, did Scandal, did some dramas. But I also started feeling like, okay, there's got to be more. Because at the time, there were a lot of roles that were great, but because I started out so young, I'd already played the young girl who dates older men. I'd already played the drug addict girl. I'd already played, the typical sort of roles that Black girls at the age I was at, were playing. The alcoholic, the one who gets drunk, and I wanted a bit more. And I ended up working behind the scenes as my first job behind the scenes was as a head writer and researcher, for a show called Spirit Sunday, which allowed me my boss at the time allowed me to, if I said I want to do this, he'd be like, okay, cool, do it. And at the time I didn't know how to do a lot of the things, but the resources were there. So one day I said I want to direct, and he was like, go, there's a cameraman in the office. If you want to direct, grab him and go tell the story, and let's see what you come back with. And that led me down this road. And it's been fun. I started on Spirit Sunday. I ended up doing some TV films as a director and writer. And then we did our first film together as Sorrel Media with Salamina, Love and Guaido. And then we did Baby Mamas a few years ago, which has been really fun. And we're in the business of filmmaking. And then I think last year I went into commercials. I direct commercials as well. And every now and again I get the honor of being asked to do TV series, which I love. So this has been my journey from TV presenter to writer, director, to sitting with you, Naledi.
Thank you so much, ladies. That is so nice. I'm just like mesmerized already. I'm just like, oh my God, what do I have to say about myself, right? So it's just amazing to just be amongst people like you today. And thank you so much for sparing time aside in this pandemic. When you're at home, when you're working from home, it's very difficult for you to just spare even an hour for work when you're juggling everything. So thank you so much for your presence. So a little bit about myself. I'm Naledi, and I'm a producer. I've never done acting because all the ladies have done acting. The only acting I've done is in high school, right, at the National School of the Arts. And then after that, I went and I pursued film and television at TUT in Pretoria, and then produced a few short films. And then my first feature, which I produced, which is Letters of Hope. And so I think this industry is not easy, but it's great when you see the trailers that we've just seen, right? The animation, the live action, and you're just like, these people are saying first, like Doretta just said, she opened her animation company and she did her first short animation. You're like, is it a first? Wow, looks too good to be a first. And then with you two ladies, right, Salamina and Steph, we always thought Baby Mama was the first, but actually there's Love and Goito, right, before that. So there's always so much work before you even do what you've done. So another thing I wanted to speak to was transition, because you guys come from industries, or rather another industry within the entertainment, right? So you're from acting and you transition into businesswomen. How is the transition? For instance, Doretta, I know you were in Panic Mechanic. I was like, Panic Mechanic?
Yes, like I said, the dumb blonde, the blonde.
Right? You're in Panic Mechanic, and from that, to script editor, to producing, to co-writing, right? And the same goes for you ladies, right? Salamina, you moved from Soul Buddies to being a producer. That's not easy. Like, honestly, from being in front of the screen, Abomzala, we are used to you being an actress. The idea of you being a producer is just like, is it, right? So just share with us how the transition has been. What were the challenges that you guys faced moving from a comfortable platform to something completely new? You can go first, Salamina.
Oh, wow. Thanks for the pressure. I was hoping you were going to say Tarata.
Sorry.
It's all good. I'm sure you've heard that saying, it takes sometimes a whole lifetime for it to look like you just woke up and things just started happening. So I think the transition was very gradual. And, for me as an actress, I think, you said something, you said, I moved from one comfortable place to another. I think our industry is uncomfortable. The whole industry, even for performers, for crew, it's a really, really tough industry. And I know, I've seen on social media, sometimes people are like, oh, actors are always complaining, oh, stop complaining. And then it's producers are always complaining, oh, stop complaining, then just leave the industry. I've always been like, it's what I'm really good at, I think. So I can't go anywhere else, okay? I've tried to leave the industry. I've worked in the corporate sector. But, when something is for you, there's just something about having a creative gene, even if it's just a little bit. It just calls you. You need to create something. You are uncomfortable unless you feel like you're putting something into that world, whether it's your voice, whether it's your story, your script, your effort arriving on set. There's just something about it. And that's why we don't leave. But I think part of why, you transition from being an actor to trying this and trying that is because you start to either get uncomfortable that you are stagnating, or you start to complain too much about other people's products, man. When you are that actress on set that's always complaining about the producer should do this and the producer should do that, and I wish the director would do this, and craft is so ugly. That's where you start to have conversations with yourself and you think, maybe, just maybe, I should start my own company so that I start to understand what it actually takes to even have a catering company arrive on set, to start to understand the process of either looking for products to create or hiring people. And then you start to also have sympathy for all that, the producers that over the years you have moaned about. I think that certainly happened to me. I started to realize that maybe, just maybe, the producer wasn't out to get me, that maybe, just maybe, the director wasn't being unreasonable, that the wardrobe lady really meant it when she said she has no budget and I must bring my own skirt to work. So I think it was a gradual transition, but it sort of also comes with growth and wanting to challenge yourself and try new things. And then also, if you start to see, or maybe you don't see enough of something portrayed on TV, you start to want to create that thing that you want to see. I want to see more strong female characters that are running boardrooms without being evil, without killing everyone else to get to the top. And then you realize, or okay, maybe I'm not seeing that because other people are creating other characters. Let me add that to the landscape. So the push for entrepreneurship for me definitely came from the conversations that I was having with Steph. Some of it was born out of frustration. Others, it's just born out of being inspired by other women who came before us or other men we saw do it. And we thought, I would probably be able to do that differently, but I think I can add my little 2 cents worth to what we see in this industry. So it was a mixed bag of being frustrated with the systems and then also just wanting to be within the system and then also just growing and then realizing that you want more for yourself, not necessarily that this is not enough, but that you want to add to it. So yeah.
Steph?
Dorette first.
Steph. It goes like this. It's how the picture is on my screen.
Oh, okay. Look, I think Salamina, I think, expressed it really well. It is a very slow transition, and it is also a calling. The people that you find in our industry really are called to create, really are called to write or direct or edit, or it is a calling, and it is you're born with it, but we end up studying just to enhance the natural talent that we've been born with. But I think it's also important to understand that our industry is small. So not everybody has the luxury to only do one thing. There's very few people who are in our industry and only focus on just one job, especially on-screen talent. But a lot of us, when you get in, you quickly realize that I won't be able to pay my bills just off one job. I'm gonna need 2 or 3, because sometimes that second and the third job come when the first one is no longer there. So you quickly then realize, okay, what other skill do I have that I can put to play so that I can earn an income? So as an actor, you'll act, you'll do voiceovers, and then if you can write, then you start writing. And also, if you're not going to auditions, or you're going to auditions and it's not the roles that you like, you then do what Dorette does, then you write your own stuff. So you quickly realize that you can't be rigid in the industry and in your talent. You have to be very fluid, and you have to adapt very quickly. And that allows you, first and foremost, to survive. And it stretches your thinking as a creative, which is also great. And it grows you. And like Sal said, you end up having sympathy towards those who had gone before you, that you had worked with in the past. So I think it's super important to transition and to be able to use all those skill sets. What is unfortunate sometimes is that you end up being forced to use those skill sets. Sometimes you weren't planning on accessing or using a certain skill set because you still wanted to act a bit more. And then the acting jobs dry up because the reality of our industry is it's very small. We don't have enough productions happening at the same time at any given time. It's very small. So there are only so many people who can get jobs at a particular time. And I think we need to, and that's where it gets difficult, because we need to find ways to grow our industry. Our industry at the moment sits in the lucrative side, sits in the TV world. Everybody who's got shows that have been commissioned by our TV channels. And then it's our films. And then it's theater. And then obviously the commercials are also a standalone. But our industry is very small. And I feel like if we were able to grow our industry, we'd be able to see more talent, but we'd also be able to tell more of our stories and be given the opportunity to fail. Because our industry is so small, there's no space to fail. There's, when you do a film, when you do a TV show, it has to be a hit, or it affects the future of those that come after you. So you always have this pressure of, if this doesn't work, then, and Tabi saying 6 months from now will come and pitch and they'll say, no, we've already approved that show and it didn't work for us. So therefore this show is similar. So therefore you can't get the job, which is unfortunate, because for the industry to grow, there needs to be enough options for all of our audiences. At the moment, we're only creating stuff for a particular group of audience, and alienating the rest. So we're only telling a certain type of story because our audience is like this, but our audiences are diverse and they're wide. And when you give them something new, they give it a chance. But we're at a point where our broadcasters might not always have, again, the luxury to try out new things. They have to stick to what's been tried and tested in the past, which means there's only a limited number of productions that we can have as a country, but also our industry is small, but there's so many people in it, so it's not able to sustain everyone. And that's the reality we also have to face and discuss as people in the industry. So yeah.
So Stefina, you speaking about a very, very sad reality, right? That about sustaining herself in the industry and the standards or the bar, right, of the industry, where it is at the moment. So, and in your transition from one space to another, you are forced to know that, when it's tried and tested, that's it. There's no second chances. So in that thought, or through that thought, Doretta, what would you say then it takes, to keep your company sustainable? Like, what does it then take, you moving into this new space, to say this animation company is going to work, it's going to generate money, and is it generating money? And if it doesn't, what do you do? Where do you even get money to start? Or do you have to rely on commissions? So where do you, when you transition your production company, how do you then, keep that or kickstart it, actually?
Look, it is extremely difficult because the industry is small. The funds are also very limited, and the funds go to a very small pool of people. A lot of the time, unfortunately, the funding also goes to the same pool of people, or the huge productions or the huge commissions. So those of us who are on the fringe trying to break in or trying to create a new industry on new platforms have to get very creative. It's very much adapt or fade away. I think that's why all of us also got involved on the back end of production, because we realized, like Safina said, you can't survive just on one aspect in the industry. And unfortunately, the same as for production, whether it's animation or live action, it's very hard to get funding outside of the normal channels. We are very fortunate in this country that we do have development funds, and we can access money via the Gauteng Film Commission, the NVF, KZN Film Commission, but that's also very limited. What it has helped is it has stimulated the development of projects that we could probably source funding from overseas or on platforms like Netflix, Showmax. Because yes, we have a very limited amount of platforms that we work on. We work mostly on TV. Our film industry is very small still. And if we want the South African industry to grow to its potential, we will have to start competing on other platforms. Netflix, all of them, the online online platforms, handheld devices. We need to grow the industry in that direction because one, it'll probably be a bit cheaper, and two, it's more accessible to a wider audience, which might then draw more advertisers and a bit more money in the end. It's it's difficult. I mean, in the end, you have to kind of, I think, collaborate. So,
Yeah.
ladies, I don't know what you think of that.
Yeah, just to jump in, and I think, what Steph and I learned the hard way after our first feature film, Love and Guaido, was that to not understand what happens in the distribution landscape is actually where a lot of us creatives shoot ourselves in the foot. And because South Africa is such a well-developed TV industry, the distribution of our projects was always something that was sort of at the back of your mind. We sort of understood what we have to create within the orbit of, I can pitch it to one of the broadcasters. And once we started to see another world out there with more platforms, whether online or the VOD streamers that started popping up, it made us then realize that we needed to educate ourselves into the business of the content. What can I do with my creation? Where can I take it? How do I make money? Where do I find money? What can I do with it outside of the development, which, yes, as you rightly put, other countries don't have the kind of funds that we have, that we can access. Limited as they are, at least somebody is willing to pay for your concept to have it developed. And it's great to have partners like that. But we really also need to get ourselves, I think those of us who sort of started and have managed to access funds also need to then allow the space, as difficult as it is, for new entrants into the industry. But that also means that we need to quickly get to having sustainable businesses, or at least sustainable projects. I feel like we work project to project and it's your project that's busy making money. So Steph likes to say, we're basically NGOs. I'm like, friend, don't say that. It sounds a bit harsh. But if you get stuck it is true. If you get stuck in that funding model and you rely solely on funds to make your projects, it starts to get you in that very difficult place where you can't get out of that system. And even that is not sustainable,
No, it's also an issue for me that we never get trained in that bit in the industry. True. When you're a youngster. Nobody trains you in how do I sell my project? How do I go to a market? How do I get people to actually talk to me? I mean, when I went to the first animation festival in Market, I was walking around going, now what do I do? How do I do this? And I've been in the industry for years, and I was thinking, well, surely someone should have told me or taught me or passed on this information, because you're blind. And it's really scary space then.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we, especially when you come from in front of camera, we know in front of camera like we know ourselves, right? When it comes to the rest of the process, I mean, you've dabbled in it, you've been in it, but you haven't actually done it, which is where we found that there was a lack of complete and full understanding. And so we had to then go on that journey to learn. And it's not a very easy journey, but it's also the climate in which we create under is first of all very rough, and then the climate in which our audiences have to consume our creations is also very rough. If you're in the film space, it's very different. You don't have a captive audience, as opposed to when you're in TV. In TV, you just have to worry about the story. Did the people act? Did we capture it? Has it gone to channel? Channel will worry about how many people are watching it. Whereas in the space we're all in, we still need to worry about how many bums on seats are we going to get into the movie house, which also adds its own stress to creation. Because a lot of the time now you're also thinking, if I write this line, what sort of people must I expect, or do I put in the line or do I not put it in? Which affects our creativity and ends up affecting the output of the story. Because our audience
Looks like Steph is frozen there for a second. Salamina, you're muted.
I just want to jump in here. So, Doretta, I think perhaps just understanding some of the people who are tuned in. Oh, friend, you back. You had frozen there for a while. Are you back?
Sorry,
Can you hear
I'm
me?
back. Sorry.
Yes. Okay, sorry. Did you want to carry on with
Where
your
did
point?
I freeze? I think
about creating for the audiences.
Oh yeah, no, that was twice. Yeah, so you have the pressure of creating for audiences, but we don't have well enough developed audiences who will commit to coming through to your film, which is really tough. It's really, really tough because it affects numbers.
Yeah. So for the new entrants, I think I'm just curious to know, Doretta, when do you know is a good time for you to call in the backup, the cavalry, to rescue your business? And where have you found that you had access to a pool of knowledge that might help new entrants into the industry?
For me, I wish I could tell you who the cavalry is. I'm still trying to figure that one out.
So I was hoping you were gonna
you had the answers.
Look, I think you always need a backup plan, and in that sense, Steph is probably right. We are more like NGOs a lot of the time. You need a day job too, which is a terrible thing to say, but that is where our industry is. And if we can keep pushing, though, if we can keep pushing and we can break a few barriers down, hopefully those who come after us won't have the same issues. If you think about it, we've only recently really got onto the world stage as female producers, developers from this country. I mean, there were a few before us, but on a smaller scale. It was also a lot television, and you have a few movie makers that were brilliant in their time, but in that generation, almost they were there and we were here. We never had access to them or to their methods or how they do it. I think the world has changed in that sense. Now you can ask me, Dorette, what's the cavalry? And I can tell you I have no clue. Please tell me if you find them. And maybe they felt the same. We just don't know it, But you have to keep pushing, and you have to, marketing is extremely important. And I think getting to festivals is extremely important. Just finding the right festival is also tricky. Because a film, we assume everybody would want to see our films, but always, because it's quite precious to you. But
it's brilliant.
But we have a very specific way of telling stories in this country, and it doesn't always appeal to everybody.
Yeah.
Very true.
That's very true. Naledi?
Hi, ladies. I'm back.
Hey. Welcome back. We were holding for you.
I saw Sal. I was like, a reason why I love the transition about these women. I knew they'll hold it down. I knew they'll hold it
was
down.
about to go into a king soliloquy.
Yeah. We're taking notes. Yeah, we're taking notes.
I hear you speaking. I actually, while you're on your topic, Sal, I wanted us to speak about your productions, right? That now you're saying the world now, is waiting for content. You and Stefina, your film is now on Netflix. a huge congratulations, right, ladies? That is huge. That is big. And for a female production company with a female narrative, right, which is very impressive, which we hardly have, and to be on such a big platform, how is it? How did you guys get to that? Because just breaking into television already, our SABCs, is quite difficult. But you guys have now went on a world-class stage, and that already is just a plus. It just means great things are about to happen. It's just going to get bigger and better. So how was that, and how did you guys get to it? How did you guys get your film there?
Yeah. So I think as producers, it's a fantastic thing for us to be on Netflix. It was the dream. Once we were out of cinema, we were like, okay, now what? So there's what filmmakers term the windows. So there's different windows that a project goes through. So first window is that theatrical release where we're in cinema, and then the next window must kick in as soon as you leave. So from cinema, we then went to the DSTV box office. We also did like a side release in Nigeria, which was a great learning tool for us. We can come back to that later, because their industry is completely different. And how mind-boggling it was for us to be in that Nollywood world. And then after we did that, we came to DSTV box office. Then we did a TV window, and then all the time though, from when we left cinema. So this is like about a year that I'm talking about. It's a couple of months how you roll out the windows. We had always been dreaming Netflix, 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 Netflix. So when it happened, it was fantastic for us. But it doesn't stop there, because then you're like, great, that's just another platform. What more is out there? What can we get from this? How do we massage this so that it helps us with future projects? So you always need to think of your not just the single project that you're working with, but what happens immediately after. What can you do that is sustainable? Because sustainability is the key. We need to be building film businesses. Just like there are well-established production houses, there needs to be well-established film production houses. And that's really where our love of this industry comes from. Steph and I, when we started our business, we were like, great, so we've been on the big productions. We've worked for the Oakers, we've worked for the big production houses, the Endemol's, etc. And we saw what they did and they're great at it. We were wanting to be a small company that is going to come and do something different. So we actually started on the online space and had a channel called Azza TV. And we created various short format programs, because all we were thinking is we have to retain our intellectual property. So being on Netflix now, it's almost like we've come full circle and we still own this baby. And now we can say, as producers, a product that we created, start to finish, is now on a big platform like that. And we can get into the room to have discussions with the powers that be about what happens after this. And that's really the model that I feel needs to be developed at a faster pace, but put more, as a country, more effort needs to be put into making sure that creatives are able to hold on to their babies and have that baby grow and be involved at all stages. Because then that's how, as a filmmaker, you start to know the business end of what it is that we're doing. That's how we change our industry. As a producer, if I am unable to employ more people, I can't have the kind of impact in the industry that is going to actually make a difference for future generations. Like Dorette said earlier, there were women who came before us, but we didn't necessarily have access to them in a way that they were able to pass the baton. Now we have to, as the filmmakers in this space, hold the ground and pass the baton onto the new up and coming. I liked you said you went to National School of the Arts. You know, it's great for me to be speaking to somebody who came from an art school and then stayed in the industry, because many others left. Because once you start to realize that, there's no money here, you sort of like, my mom was right. I should have studied law or accounting and gone
Of course,
into those.
definitely.
Yeah, you know, so we need to have a lot more sustainable businesses in this industry that are then going to push this industry and have it become a powerhouse like a Nollywood, like a Bollywood, like a Hollywood. You know, we can all argue about what ours is going to be called, Sollywood, Egollywood, whatever. But it needs to, because certainly the talent is there for it to happen, but it's going to take a seismic shift of different creatives surviving in this industry and then thriving in this industry for it to start to be called a proper industry.
I think you touched on a very important thing, the IP. You know, for years and years and years, creatives in our industry, we just, you create stuff, you pass it on, it goes. And that means you have nothing to build on. It's a building block. So the minute you can hold on to the IP, it's like a business card. And next time I can hand that in and say, okay, this is what I've done. Now help me to do the next thing and the next thing. So that is why Netflix and them are really potentially game changers for us, because suddenly we can go in on an equal footing and say, I'm not giving up my IP, which we've been doing and we've had no choice in the matter.
I like that. We've had no choice. And I think it's very important that I like being realistic. I'm a realistic person. So what Dorette and Sal are saying is we can talk about industry and we can talk about survival and we can talk about all these things, but until we have a realistic, truthful conversation around IP, we're not going anywhere, because we just pouring into an empty well. Like we need to have our creatives own, even if it's a portion of their work, but they need to own a portion or all of their work where possible. But unfortunately, we've been operating in a system that, I mean, TV only came in 1976 or 75 in South Africa and came with its own rules, and nobody questioned those rules. And when we got into the new dispensation, nobody said, wait, hold on, we need to relook the T's and C's. Into 94, nobody said, let's look at our Copyright Act where TV and film is concerned. So we still have producers coming up with amazing pieces of work, but they don't own it. Our broadcasters owned it, but they didn't come up with it.
So, and our broadcasters don't particularly travel with it or do much with it. They don't build on it. They just
own it for the sake of owning it.
Yeah, consume. Yeah.
You know, which we can't, so therefore there's no building block. The block gets taken away every time. So every time you're starting from scratch, every single time you are starting as if you've never produced anything in your life. So until we have those conversations, I don't know if it's worth having any other conversation, because as a country, our creatives are being bled dry.
Changed a lot. Yeah.
But and on the topic of owning IP, right? So you have a film and you don't know what to do with it, right? And you take it to amazing film festivals. That's I think that's the one thing that the filmmaker on their own they can do, right? So you take your film to DIF, to our Joburg Film Festival, right? To our Torontos. So your film gets to travel globally, right? And I think your animation as well did the same, Dorita, and it's still traveling even in 2020, right? So your film as a filmmaker gets to travel so much, and then the festival run is done. Reality strikes. You now need to actually make money from this, because festivals, it's showcase, right? It's not a money making. It's about network. So you come back, you have your film, it's sitting here, and the first thing you have to do is what? Call a distributor to take your film somewhere. So when Stefina, you're speaking about actually having an honest talk, right, on our films and where they're going, how do we access the television space without a distributor? How do you even get a distributor? I know with Letters of Hope, it was a real struggle, to be honest. It was a real struggle to just get a distributor from the get-go. And then we did DIV, and then you come back with Artistic Bravery, and then people reply to your emails, right? For the first time. And you're like, oh, so that was...
Emails
so
we
if it
sent 8
didn't
months
happen
ago.
like that, then where would I be, right?
Yeah.
So now you have a pool of distributors that you've contacted, all of them. Now it's a choice. Who do I go with? Whose commission is not as much, and how long is now they go and negotiate for you. They negotiate, and then broadcast they own your film for like a good 10 years or
20. Let's be specific. 20.
You see, no, some of them say 10. They could end it for 10 if we really negotiate well, and when we're realistic, they take it for 20, and you are paid off. You are not once, right? Once they've done their payment, and they can play it over and over and over and over and over, and we are not making any money from it. Yeah. And this is something that has always been happening. Yeah. So as young filmmakers, moving, Doretta, in the animation space, you are quite young, because you say you just opened your company. As young filmmakers, how do you have full control of your IP? Let's just be honest. Is it even a thing? Is it even possible? Right? It sounds like a dream.
The impossible dream.
Yes, it is kind of the impossible dream in many senses, but you have to start somewhere. And like, look, in animation, I think with most things, if you can make a short movie, or you make a movie, look, if you make a movie, it's a lot of money. A short film is less expensive in any format. And then if you can get to festivals and stuff, the idea is to try and build collaborations. We have great treaties with many countries, with Canada, with France, and they're actually looking to invest, and they're looking to partner with people here in the country, but they don't want to partner with someone who hasn't done anything. So that is why they most of the time go to people who are actually either experienced or have big production houses. They don't always pick the first timers. But if you can use your film in some way that they at least talk to you, and they can see you're busy developing your second one, your first one is out there, this one won a few awards, you can, again, it's back to building blocks. You can build a relationship and hopefully get them on board. And the minute you have somebody outside come in and help you, the negotiation process changes. Yes, you give up some of your IP to them, but at least locally, they won't just go, I want the whole thing, and you don't get anything, and bye-bye. You have more grounds to negotiate. So it's a long process, it's a tedious process, and it's not perfect by any standard. But at least we're there now. At least we have the treaties. We have the options. So I suppose we just have to keep chiseling at it, and try and get people in the film commissions to be the voices for us filmmakers, and be the go-between between the rule makers and us, because we are cut off from the rule makers. We can't get.
Yeah, I think it's really important to explain to people exactly how important film festivals and markets are. Because I think until we started attending those, we ourselves didn't quite understand the whole pie. We understood a portion of it, but a very important part of it is what happens to your product, who's selling it, how are they selling it, how much can you make from it? And that is extremely important. So going to festivals and going to markets, I can't stress it enough. It's extremely important, especially if you are the person who has that IP. It's also it's counterproductive to want to hold on to 100% of a tiny minuscule little thing, when giving up 10% could potentially open other avenues for you. So sometimes we obsess about the ownership, without understanding that if we think of it as a business, to get an investor interested in your business, sometimes you have to give up. In fact, most of the time. Otherwise, the investor is your uncle, your dad, as somebody who's just trying to develop you, Father Christmas. A real investor is going to take a portion of that, because they want return on that investment. But of course, ask questions, do the research. We have film bodies, we have commissions, the GFC people were a great tool for us when we did Love and Kwaito, because we didn't know a lot about what happens after I've shot. They were a great partner for us with marketing. And actually, they assisted us, even with attending festivals for baby mamas. It's just, you have to get out there, you have to network, you have to collaborate, you have to have conversations, even uncomfortable ones. Steph and I, we do like a good cop, bad cop type of little act. Doretta likes to say she used to play the blonde all the time. We as actors, we still do that. When we're asking questions, you disarm people by just being honest about how little you know, and there's nothing wrong with it. So we'll ask these questions. You heard earlier on, Steph was like, can I ask a stupid question? We do that a lot. Okay, there's nothing wrong with it, because people can give you, the correct answers if you just put yourselves out there. For us to get to where we need to get, I think we also need to stop comparing ourselves to the very well-developed Hollywood. That's a whole industry where even the contracts are at a certain standard, where there's laws in place. A script writer knows that having a conversation with a producer, you don't have to be scared that they're going to steal your concept and your IP, because you have 1, 2, 3 protections. You've already registered it there. You've trademarked this, and you did it. So there's a whole ecosystem that supports the creative sector. We're still very much at that place where we're still having conversations about protecting the assets that we have and our businesses. So there's a lot of work that still needs to be done.
I agree that there's a lot of work that still has to be done, right? There's so much work that, and you said we need to get ourselves out there, like markets, film festivals, right? So, for instance, there's, I think, a lot of festivals, or people go to festivals and it's like, but I can watch this movie afterwards, right? I don't have to go watch it at the festival because it's opening this festival. It's unnecessary. But what is it about the markets that you guys can share from your experiences, your Discops, your DiffMart? What has those platforms done for you as filmmakers, for your content? Doretta and Stefina, what has that actually done for your films? What connections have you guys made, or network you've built to say definitely, Discop is worth going to, for example?
Doretta, you can go.
It's a networking exercise. It's the best way I can describe it. I don't know if you have a different word for it, Stefina, but you meet people that you can collaborate with, people that you can talk to about future projects. So it's not always just about the project you have right there at that moment. It's mostly about relationships and about building collaborations. Nobody works with anybody. Nobody gives anybody money that they don't know. If you think about it, you only you think twice before you give your family money. How can you expect a stranger you have never? No, but really, it's true. Now you go to a stranger who's never met you. You say, "Hi, I'm a brilliant movie maker. Can you give me money?" It's the same thing. So it's a lot about building relationships, about getting to know them, about using your charm, like something I said, playing the dumb blonde if you have to, but getting their attention and trying to again just see where the industry is going, where there's gaps, what different channels need, what different countries are interested in. It's fascinating when you speak to people from France and people from China and people from other industries, and you realize that we have so much to offer them. We sometimes just slant it wrong, or we pitch the wrong thing to the wrong country, or we so it's a learning curve, a networking thing.
Yeah, I think Dirt, you're very correct. I'll tell you, Naledi, what our first Discop, when we went to Discop for the very first time a few years ago, we came back and we were like, what? There's a whole world out there of people just like us and people who deal with the stuff we're trying to do and trying to make. So we came back to the office that day and we were like, because I mean, especially if you're very new in the industry and you're a small player like we are, it's very easy to get discouraged. It's very easy to doubt yourself and just go, you know what, I love this idea, but it's never going to happen. So let me just leave it. I can tell you at Discop, we met, there's this one guy we met from Nigeria. And he was there looking, he's a distributor, but he was looking for international distribution for the stuff that he owned as a distributor. And the way he was talking about film and how he can sell it to South Africa and how he's looking for someone from China to buy some of his films and some of his series. We were like, wait, hold on. There's a whole other world to this. And he was very accessible as compared to how our distributors work in South Africa. Our distributors, they're almost gatekeepers to a certain extent. Actually, not to a certain extent. They are gatekeepers. So it was very refreshing to speak to somebody who understood that my job is to get content and to sell it on. So I will meet whoever I need to meet who's going to buy it, and I know how to sell it. And he believed in his content. And after meeting with him, we got back to our office and we were like, I think it was before we had made Love and Kwaito. We met him the November. That January, we were shooting Love and Kwaito. Because something clicked in our brains that don't overthink it. Because especially when you have two personalities, and mostly women are like that. We perfectionists. We want everything to have lined up before we do. If you don't have it lined up, you're not going to make the move yet. Whereas guys just make the move. Guys walk into a room and tell you, I want to, and you're like, what have you directed? No, I haven't directed anything, but I'm a director.
But I can, yeah.
Yeah, I know I can do it. Women will first start as a production assistant, to work their way up. Meanwhile, this person can direct, but they just like, no, I'm not ready. I haven't been in the industry. I first want to learn everything. Guys, don't do. And meeting that guy, I was like, he believes in his content, and whether or not I think his content is good is not the issue. The issue is I've already ruled myself out of my content being worthy of being seen and sold to other territories. And we had to fix that about ourselves and go, we've never shot a feature film before as a company. We don't know how, but we'll never find out until we start. until we pick up a call and go, we're looking for a DOP, until the first day of shooting, and we're like, okay, cool, we are at the location, what else do we need? So it was, Love and Kwaito was our learning curve, our big learning curve, that had Love and Kwaito not happened, I guarantee you baby mamas would never have happened.
Wouldn't have. Yeah.
Never.
Yeah.
So
Just to add to that, sorry, Steph, you reminded me of something. We actually submitted Love and Kwaito for TIFF. We became those people because of the very guy that Steph is talking about. And though we didn't get into TIFF, we got a letter from TIFF that said, great film, nice potential, would love to meet you guys. You sound like a fantastic team. Try get yourselves to TIFF. Unfortunately, we can't fund it. And that completely changed how we viewed ourselves and how we thought of everything that we create going forward.
Awesome. You know what? I wonder if in our industry in South Africa, well, maybe it's a South African thing, I don't know, but we are, as women, we tend to be very apologetic. We apologize. We apologize for the fact that I'm talented. I apologize that I have an idea. I apologize that I want to be a movie maker. I apologize that I don't want to act anymore. I apologize we apologize. And the industry, to me, the international industry also, that was one of the things I learned from them, is they are unapologetic about sometimes the biggest load of nonsense. A guy or a girl will they'll tell you a story and you look at them and you go, you got to be kidding me. That is the biggest load of, I've never heard anything so bad, but they sell it to you and they believe in it and they believe in themselves. And that's another hurdle we need to get over in this country. We need to believe we are talented, that we can compete, that we have the skill set. We don't always.
But Doretta, on that point, Doretta, saying that we are very apologetic, especially us as females, right? What do you think causes it? Is it a matter of so for instance, Steph, you just said, I'm not ready yet to direct, and that's something that I've said, right? I think I'm a better producer than a director. Oh my God, I don't think I'll be, and that's why we have very few female directors. So,
no, that's
but
not the
why?
That's
is it not the
reason.
reason? Because we are apologetic. We don't want to. We are scared to do it. We are scared to take the chance.
One of the reasons. We're
one of the reasons.
It's one of the reasons. We're very scared to do it, right? But sometimes you get to a point where you're like, I'm doing it anyway. But then the next hurdle comes into, we're living in a society where they'll question you as a girl, but they're not going to question a guy. So
the guy, exactly. That's so exactly where I'm going with it.
How many films have you done? But a guy will come in and be like, I haven't directed a film, but I believe I can do it.
and he gets the opportunity to do it. So is it the sexism now? Let's speak to the sexism that we face on a daily, and as female practitioners, is that we are in an environment, or we are in a space where males dominate, right? And then we are scared to take chances because male dominate. How has that affected us as females moving forward? Or and another thing that has been huge, right? And I heard this story the other day where this girl was sharing with me that, the lady, there's this director, and I'm a lecturer by day and filmmaker by night, right? So the student says, lady, I've been on the set. It was so great being on the set. And I think I'm ready for my first short. And I'm like, yeah, you should apply. The NFBF is opening soon, blah, 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 blah. And I'm encouraging her. And then I ask, so have you started putting your application together, because it's going to open soon? She says, yeah, lady, but my mentor, I was very uncomfortable with my mentor. And I'm like, what are you talking about? She says, my mentor. I'm like, what mentor? Right? My male mentor on his set. And I don't think I want to continue with this anymore. And I'm like, excuse me? That shouldn't stop you, right? So there are so many things apart from just getting the sexism treatment, but there's also those elements of sexual harassment that I think we need to get over, right? Or we need to move past and we need to address on a daily, right? As females, so that we are more comfortable on set. So how, I just want us to say, what is your take on issues of sexual harassment in our space, right? And sexism within our space, and how do we then grow when the environment seems so toxic?
I'll speak to the sexism for now.
Yes.
And say, I think one of the biggest blessings I have had was to go to a girls' school that had a very strong principal who was a woman, but she was very strong-minded and she instilled a lot of how she thought in us. Sal knows this. Whenever she meets some of the girls I went to high school with, she'll always go, "Sure, Banabako Ren girls, sure link." And it's because we were told in school, we were allowed to be. We were allowed to, if you wanted to act and you written something, our principal would say, "Okay, cool, Friday assembly, do it." If you disagreed with something that she said or had applied in the school, you'd set up a meeting and go state your case, and she'd listen to you. And I was a teenager then, where I was allowed to express myself. I remember the one day she put me in a new class every year. And I was like, I'm not comfortable with this teacher. She doesn't like us, da 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 da. And she was like, She listened. She didn't change me, but she didn't change me and move me to another class, but she listened. And sometimes that's all you need for your confidence to grow, so that you understand that what you have to say matters. So fast forward years later, I'm working in this industry, and as a Black woman, in an industry full of, in Joburg, a lot of Black men who come we all come from different homes, and we've all been taught different things. But one of the main things that they've all been taught is, whether they admit it or not, is a woman is beneath me. A woman has their place, and a woman can only talk to me like this and not like that. So now you walk on set and you a Black woman and you the boss, you're the director of this whole ship. And you're not good, I had to learn very quickly that you get judged very quickly as a woman when you are stern and you are strict and you know exactly what you want and you're able to articulate it. You get called certain names, because they still expect you to get there and go, "Oh, Papa, wait till I go this shot. Wait, I think an MCU would be great for this shot. Can you please give it to me?" So there's some men who still want to be approached with that, you need to be humble, you need to beg them, "Oh, Papa." And then here comes this girl who'll get there and go, "I need an MCU," and then it'll be, no, I think I've already set up for a close-up. So then I had to learn to go, "Oh, that's great, thank you, but I need an MCU." And then you get the guy who gets shocked that, "Oh, wait, is my authority being questioned here?" And it's like, "No, I'm not questioning your authority, Baba. I am asking you to do something because it is my job to ask you to do things in this vicinity here. I am not your cousin. I am not your little sister. I am not your mother. I am not your aunt. I'm Stephanie." And it ends there. And once you start on that journey, I mean, thank God I'm an actress as well, because a lot of the time I have to pull from being an actor, either to stop myself from swearing at them, or to just learn to be level-headed and not take certain things personally, but call you out on it with a straight face. Yeah. So there's a lot of things we navigate when we get on to set, and a lot of it has to do with being questioned. A lot of guys will question you when you say, "I need this," because they believe, "No, but I've already done it this way, and this way is the right way," without always understanding that, yeah, even if you've done it this way, Right now, the director wants it this way, and it is your job to give it in the way the director has asked. And it's not to say we're not here to collaborate and to get, to share ideas, not that at all, but it is at this moment, this is what they've asked for. Unless your reason, surpasses all and it's a much better idea. But you can also already tell when somebody is coming to the table with a great idea and when somebody is just refusing to listen to your idea only because they think you're beneath them, they think you're not a good enough director, you basically a woman. And so you have to, I've had to learn to try and smoothen out some of the spaces I work in. I've also had to learn to fire people. Because sometimes I just can't work in that space. I can't work with a person who constantly is on a journey to not only undermine me, but to leave me and my ego and my confidence completely washed out. So I have to fire you. I have to let go. I have to remove you from my space. We are in a creative space. We all need positive energies. If I feel, this is not going to work, I share it with the people I need to share it with. That's my producers to go, yeah, no, that's just not, that person is not going to work. And it's not because they're not good. It's because they don't always realize that they are unable to work with me as a director. And I feel things that when I walk on set, I already, in 5 minutes, I know whether something is right or something is wrong. So when I walk in and I feel like, vibes more, I have to get to the source of it. And if the source of it is this, then we have to solve it. Usually I'll talk to you face to face and go, do you have a problem with me? Do you have a problem with taking my instructions? What is the issue really? And iron it out. And sometimes it only takes that. Sometimes it only takes a conversation before a person, because you have to check a person. Because because it's so ingrained in our society and in our brains, only when you call them out on it do they go, yeah, actually, sorry. Because they didn't do that. I was
to me, it's even worse that, look, I understand that the male thing is an issue and we've all had to deal with it and we all deal with it all the time. What to me is very sad is that sometimes you actually get it from women, that it's like women shut you down because women don't like women getting ahead, which to me is even worse. I don't know if any of you've experienced that. That's no excuse for that, really.
It's a very valid point that you raise. I think Sal and I are two women, so we used to working with women and being in a space with women, and not just as other women. And a lot of the time when we in production, there's a lot more women. So where we do experience that, we also try and call it out, but we try and cultivate an environment where, as much as possible, the woman can thrive in that environment. I mean, we don't all have to be friends. It's amazing that Sal and I can be friends, but we don't all have to be friends. We're here to work, right? But in us working, at the end of this project, we all need to have grown, because such is the life of a creative. When 5 years ago as a director, I was I was a director in this way, and 5 years later as a director, I direct very differently to how I directed Love and Kwaito. So we need to all be able to track our growth. There needs to be a difference at the end of the production, that in your next project, you'll be able to apply some of the lessons you learned in your previous project.
All right, and so speaking to sexism and inequality, right, towards women, and having to be firm, and maybe other women bringing us down, right? How do you, as women, we've come a long way. Like we've dealt with it, or we've just bottled it in for so long, right? Yet there's women rights have been there. Like we have rights. We know we can speak out, but we choose not to. Hence now there's organizations like SWIFT, right, in place for us to utilize them. But why are we not utilizing these systems? Why are these issues, so Doretta, you've been longer in the industry. Has it always been a problem, that females are very, very submissive and very scared and very timid, that we do not speak out? And does that actually affect the type of content that we create? Right? Because, for instance, in our production company, Trial by Media, the other day I was pitching this idea to my co-founder, and I'm like, I think this is it, right? I think this is the next female story that we should tell. And because he's a male, it's but we've had other stories, Naledi, that are better, and it's just normal for him to react like that, I suppose, right? But and then the normal me would be like, it's fine. But for the moment I thought, why should I say it's fine? I said, oh no, it's fine. When we're done with your film, you're doing mine, right? It's about that time. So why don't we have that? Is it a generational thing that needs to change? Is it how we see ourselves? Because inequality is there. We cannot act as if it's not. So when you produce as a female, for instance, on Letters of Hope, people wouldn't respond to my emails, as fast as they would to for Africa's emails. And I'm like, and in the boardroom, other people will expect him to speak and not me. And I'm like, when you're looking for money, and it's just weird. I'm like, what's going on here? And why?
You've been
why
told
should
that
it be like that?
bring your boss. Sal and I have been in the boardroom and we were asked, where's your boss?
They say, where's the boss? And then we both do like a thing. And then Steph will go, there's the boss. And then I point to her, there's the boss. And then they get so uncomfortable. Like, no, we don't mean, no, you do mean that.
You do mean, exactly. Don't say you don't mean, you do mean. So we are in an environment where now changes still need to happen within our industry for females, right? A lot of changes. And so, because now there's so many questions now in our inbox, guys, that I want us to get to. Yes, already. So
just to jump in here. So the patriarchy and gender inequality is not unique to South Africa. This is a fight that we're seeing happening internationally. You go to Davos, there's 1,000 men and 4 women. You go to almost throughout the world in every different sector. So it isn't unique to the arts, and it isn't unique to South Africa. But the important thing that we as women need to remind ourselves and remind each other is we need to hold spaces for each other. And we need to get more women into these important conversations, into the room, into our boardrooms, into our production houses, into positions that matter, because that is the key. Until I had seen Steph operate on a set as a woman, I had seen it, but it wasn't personal, until you are the producer supporting the director. It took me being on set to see how other people listen to her instructions versus what I've seen as an actor happen when, like the first man that directed me, Bobby Heaney, I saw how he commands a set and the respect that he got. And then I saw Steph in exactly the same position, sometimes on a bigger production than what I had ever been on. And now the difference was it was our set. And she had to run it. And people were struggling to take that and those instructions. And they were second guessing her and questioning. And I think that is the power of us as producers, as female producers. There's things that we are able to see. There's a unique context we come with. There's a unique eye that we have. And there are experiences that we have had that inform the kind of culture that we create on our sets. And my set will never be a set where women feel like they are harassed or feel like they need to have extra protection, etc. And that's just because my unique position allows for me to create and have conversations with the people that we hire as the boss, because I am in a position to actually make a difference. I am no longer just the person who's coming in and out. I am literally hiring. And you know the problematic personalities. I can call them out on it. So it is going to take a lot of the swift type of organizations, but also just in our own spaces, in our companies, letting people know that we will not apologize, we will not allow, we will not accept, to be treated as second-class citizens, etc., and other people. So it's protecting the intern that comes, because there are positions on a set that do leave you vulnerable to being exploited. And it happens a lot to young women. It also can happen to just young people who are coming into the industry who are being abused. So it's about creating the kind of spaces and environments that we want people to be happy to come to work for. So this is not a conversation that can be covered in such a short session.
It's a small space of time.
Yeah,
I agree. But how do we get there? Is it how, as creatives, we respond, maybe, right, to gender-based violence? Is it the ideology, right? How do we, stories are very powerful too, right? And story empowers. So is it in the name of us as creatives now telling more stories that are about females, addressing gender-based violence, a response to that, right? So for instance, your film is Baby Mamas is a female-driven narrative, right? And it's empowering and it's showing different sides of females. And so is it those types of stories that actually can gear us up? How do we as creatives, right? We need to respond now as females, knowing what's happening within our country, gender-based violence. How do we as creatives respond ideology in terms of how we see our films, where we're going with our films as female filmmakers, as directors, as producers, the kind of content that we're about to create. So what's the ideology and the work that it takes for us to empower ourselves as filmmakers, to have a voice, and to empower those watching?
Yeah. We are essentially attacking cultural norms here. So the impact that we will have is very different because different things appeal to different people. But as you rightly put it, Steph always fights for her female characters. When she writes a story, she wants the female to be in a position of power. And that's really important because we make these stories for people that are watching. And of course, every time we put out a piece of work, it creates a perception. It has a life beyond which, it comes off the pages and these people are portrayed, these characters become portrayed by real people, and we add to this kitty of the conversations that we're having about the role of women. So they'll never, so gender equality can of course be tackled in our stories and will continue to be so, but it does also take us fighting for the right to tell those stories. We had people who were saying, make the men more powerful. No, different story. In this story, the women are powerful.
And what are the tips that we can give to females coming into our industry, Doretta and Steph? What are the tips to say, as a female, this is how you arm yourself into this industry? These are the tips. This is what you should stand by, or these are the values. But what can we give, the advice we can give to females out there coming into this industry?
Nothing comes easy. It's very important to remember that. If you've listened to the journeys we've all been on, training is essential, any form of training that you can find. I know not everybody has access, and sometimes you have issues with funds, but a lot of the platforms these days have masterclasses or classes that they host for free that you can join. There are colleges who run stuff that you can join if you really have a fund issue. So try and get some training in whatever you're interested in, gain some experience. If you can, do an internship, go and make tea somewhere if you have to. You have to go through the steps and then stop apologizing for your dream, for what you want to do. If you think you have a story and you're a brilliant potential movie maker, get out there and try and empower yourself. Nobody's going to do it for you. Unfortunately, we're in an industry, in a country where if you don't do it yourself, it's not going to happen. You have to get online, go to the different commissions, apply for funding. You have to do the footwork. You have to do what men do. Men have been breaking down doors. They walk in, like Steph said, they walk in and go, I can do this. I'm doing this. I'm doing it now. And everybody goes, okay, we have to become that. It's the only way we will change the industry as it is.
Yeah. And I think also, Naledi, just to touch on your question about gender equality and gender-based violence that women experience, and the storytellers, how do we tell that story? How do we raise awareness? I think Sal touched on, and you also touched on baby mamas being led by 4 women. I think what's important with the storytellers going forward, whether it's producers, directors, writers, the entire ecosystem, is when I write, I'm not writing a female-led story. I'm writing a story. And because it comes from my perspective as a woman, it'll mean I will portray women in the way I understand them and in the way I've seen them be in real life. So the more you hire women storytellers, will be the more you get that perspective. So up until a few years ago, most 98% of the films we were getting and making, so getting from internationally and making locally, were stories led by male characters or stories told from a male perspective. So the more we hire women, will be the more our female perspective in all its glory and in all its diversity will then be released into our audiences. So there's no one way of doing it, but I think we just need to be allowed into certain spaces that we haven't been allowed into for centuries. And when we're there, we need to fight for the story you want to tell, because it's very easy for people to question your perspective. No, but women don't do that. Like, but are you a woman? Are you this woman? So I think we need to be truthful to that, to the varying different voices, and appreciate each voice. All of them will be different because women are different. And men have been allowed for all these centuries to tell however many stories they like. Let's also be allowed to do the same. And if the story has been told, tell it again if it's the story you want to tell. So yeah.
Any other tips for newcomers? Because I see we've lost Naledi again.
Yeah. Most important is, there are barriers to entry. There are barriers to entry in any industry. But, I think definitely my phrase of the day has to be, stop apologizing. I love that. Thank you, Dorrit. I'm going to quote you everywhere I go now because it's true. So it's really important for people coming into the industry, stop apologizing. Yes, you're young. Great. Yes, you're a female. Great. Yes, you're young, you're black, you're inexperienced. That is not
experienced at some point.
At some point, even the greatest and most famous filmmakers in the world, producers, entrepreneurs, etc., were once inexperienced. So the most important thing is, learn the lay of the land, get in there, get your hands dirty, investigate, explore, don't give up, don't allow. I think we do this as a lot as women, is we allow the naysayers to have a bigger impact on our journey than those who are like, try it, go ahead. We're scared of being criticized, especially in this world of online. One bad review can go viral and it can potentially completely destroy your self-esteem, your self-confidence. But it's just reminding ourselves that this is, at the end of the day, a subjective medium. I think whenever I remind myself, that my project is not for everyone, not everyone is going to think it's brilliant, and that's okay. They are products from well-known producers and directors that I have personally not liked. And it doesn't stop Quentin Tarantino from making another movie just because I didn't like it, So it's understanding that even the greatest and best also have put out work that wasn't necessarily critically acclaimed. So it's that thing that Steph was saying. We need to also just give ourselves space to grow and make those mistakes and get better as we go. But also keep in mind that not everyone is going to get your product.
The one thing about the platforms that we have now have access to is that if you're a young movie maker, you have so many tools that didn't exist a few years back. I mean, a few years back, you couldn't just make a movie with your camera on your phone and then post it all over the world and get people to like it or hate it, for that matter. I mean, there's no such thing as bad publicity, don't they say that? But
Yes.
so that's also, if you think you're a movie maker, then that's a great way to start posting little TikTok videos or whatever else and see if anybody likes it. It's the world has opened up. The internet has opened up the world a lot. It's become a lot smaller with a vast amount of opportunities, which is lovely if you're a newcomer.
Yeah. And I think there's lots to be said about collaboration. Because in the world we're living in, and especially in South Africa, I always say South Africa, until you leave, you then realize how far we are from geographically, how far we are from the hubs that we so look up to. So nobody thinks of us. We were all the way down on the tip of Africa, right? So you sometimes to get your work to travel or to make work, you need to collaborate with people from locally and people from all around the world to be able to understand what is, what can also, what you can take from locally to make into a global product. And especially for young people who are entering the film space, sometimes who your 10 selves together and see who can do what and do it. You just never know where that work will end up in future. And even for us, we're on this platform right now. All of us are storytellers. All of us are filmmakers. Imagine what it would be like next year this time on Women's Day, we have a project with all 4 of us in it, right?
Wonderful.
I think that is a lot of what's missing in South Africa. We don't collaborate with each other as much as we could, because we don't know what network I have or what the Red's network is or the Ladies' network is. It could be that Sal's network opens a door that none of us had thought of, and it's just the thing that they've been looking for. So I think for me, even when the year started, I was like, we need, my personal journey is to collaborate more with different people and see where that takes us. Because
that might also be a nice idea for the Gauteng Film Commission and NVF and them to start hosting industry network sessions. So that people like us all get together in the same room, even if we work in different areas of industry, and start chatting to each other. Because when we go to markets, we tend to focus on the outside people, the potential distributor, the potential guy on the other side of the ocean. And we actually have a great pool of talent. So I think you're onto something there, Steph, that we should collaborate more.
Can I give you, I have like 3 questions in the chat, right? That I'll give to you. So if you could answer as quick and as swiftly as possible. So one says, how does one get all the jobs or opportunities you've had? And I'm not referring to the acting side of it, because I've never seen a post advertised in our field. So how does one get all these opportunities? Anybody?
Sometimes it's about creating these opportunities for yourself. For example, if you want to be hired as a script writer, write a script, apply to the NFVF for development funding, find out other people, if your application is not successful, find out from other people who've had successful applications. The beauty of the system that the NFVF has and PFCs and the KZN film commissions is that they don't hide who they funded. So you are able to try and reach out to people and find out from them, can you assist me? I tried to apply, I didn't make it. Can you give us some pointers? Or, what did you learn? What can you assist me with, etc. It's about also just doing the homework, doing the research. Don't expect everything to just be handed to you. Sometimes you literally have to create your own job. Do YouTube clips if you're an actor, if you're a writer, find out how other people are getting their stuff made. But most importantly, try to develop your own project and do it as professionally as you can because the tools are.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Steph. Another question is IP really such a deal breaker?
Well,
IP is intellectual property. It means if you give that up, it means whatever you thought up does not belong to you anymore. That's in the short version. In other words, I'm a creator. I create this beautiful, tremendous TikTok video. It gets 2 million likes, but I signed my IP over to TikTok, which means all the ad revenue goes to TikTok, not to me. And that's basically how industry works. So IP is something you really want to hold on to, or even if just a percentage, and you really can't. Television, you do not. The moment you write and it goes on a screen, it is not yours anymore. They can sell it to Africa, they can sell it to Europe, they can sell it to South America, they can sell it wherever they want, they can rerun it 100 times. You do not get a cent for it.
Also, let's look at the Mbube story. A few weeks ago, I was watching the documentary on Netflix on Mbube. The South African guy wrote it, signed over his IP to the recording company. Obviously, he didn't know this is what he was doing, nor did he understand what this could mean. And the recording company took it and it got re-recorded 1 million times by Americans and other people around the world. And with him not getting a cent until when Lion King used the song, and his kids, so many years later, went to a lawyer and said, but our dad wrote this. So it's that. Sal always says to people when the IP story comes up that, no, when you sign this contract, your entire IP falls to us and all you'll get is 200,000 or 500,000. And then Sal would say, sure, my daughter is, now she's 10. That means you are going to keep my IP for 20 years. And she can only start making money out of it when she's 30. And how much money is she going to make then? It's that. It's your legacy. It's creating something that is your legacy and saying, "Ooh, legacy. Here you go. Go to someone else, and I don't need that much from it." Our laws need to change because it doesn't work like that anywhere else in the world except here. Well, I don't know, but I know this is how it operates in South Africa, which is not fair. And it's not to say that we want to hold on to IP. I want to be compensated
for my idea.
Compensated fairly. It's not that they don't compensate you. They give you a salary, but they don't say, because you came up with this great thing that I'm now going to make millions off of, here's your portion of the millions. No. They give you a very small fraction of it and go, there you go. And it's like I said, the Mbube story. Lion King made how much from just that song? And the family of the man who wrote that song and sang that song didn't make a fraction of the millions and the billions that they made.
So IP is important. It's the beginner. It's the egg.
Yeah.
And the chicken, and the chicken salad, and the fried chicken.
And the bread, you're gonna put it on.
And I think, sometimes, Naledi, as a young filmmaker entering the industry, you just think, let me just write something. And as long as I sell it, as long as I make some money, because sometimes you're desperate. Sometimes you get excited that, ooh, this channel is interested in my work, or ooh, this producer is interested in my work, or you get taken over by, oh, I've been struggling so much for so long, or I need money right now and these people are giving me the money. So in that moment, because of a lack of knowledge, a lot of the time you make the mistake of saying, okay, let me just sign just so that I can get my money and sort out my problem. But we're not thinking about what happens 20 years from now when some young filmmaker wants to remake your script, and the person they have to pay is the channel and not you. How many films has Hollywood had to make and remake, and the person who gets paid is the person who created it instead of the channel that owns it? So it's a conversation, guys, that needs to be had for our industry to survive. Otherwise, unfortunately, if it continues in the way it's continuing, 10, 15, 20 years from now, we will not have an industry to talk of. And I hate to say it, I really do. But it's that. Our future lies in our IP and us being compensated. We're not trying to keep it or keep all of it. We're saying we need to be compensated fairly for it.
See, it's also, I think the new generation has an issue with us wanting our IP because they have so many platforms that they can just post stuff on. They give away IP actually for free every day. The difference is that when you just make a little video in your backyard, chances are you're not as good as someone, I hate to say it, but you're not as good as someone who's been in the industry for a while, who has a whole crew behind them, or who has worked on a script for 6 months, or had an editor involved in whatever else. So what we're selling is a professional project or product that has legs, that can travel. A little video shot on a little phone in the backyard, some of them are hits, yes, but they don't have legs. They won't travel. They won't last beyond 6 months. And that's why IP is so important, because it's something that's lasting, something that can be recreated, something you can build on. So it's important, even though a lot of people these days give a lot of stuff away on YouTube and everywhere else. It's not the same thing.
And also, sorry, just to add one last thing to this. I was reading a story. I don't know if you know I'm sure we all have read about it at least. Hamilton, the theater, the musical that was on Broadway that then went to the UK and traveled around the world. One of the lead actors in Hamilton, I was reading an article and he was saying, it's a theater musical play, right? And they wanted to film it. They wanted to film the theater version while they are on stage. And they were not getting paid, like they were not being compensated now for this piece of work that was now going to live in film. I think they were being only compensated for a normal theater run. And he then came back to the producers and said, the lead in Wizard of Oz that played 2 years ago, same vibe, it was a theater musical and it was being filmed to play on television, but they were filming it in theater. How much did you pay that guy? And then they told him and he said, that's how much I want. I don't want even a cent more. I want to get paid the same as the lead of Wizard of Oz. And they found out how much that was. And he says the day before filming was to happen, they still hadn't confirmed whether they were going to give him that money. And his agent asked, why do you want so much money? And he said, this is all I have. All I know how to do is to sing and act. And you want me to give it away for free for something that's now going to live in a different medium
forever and ever. Film is forever. Baby mamas will be here forever. So, and he said, so you want me to give away, it's the only talent, it's all I know to do. And you want me to give it away for a very small portion instead of getting paid what I feel is due to me. And never mind what I feel is due to me, what you were able to pay somebody else a few years ago, but you're not willing to pay it to me because I'm a Black guy, right? So it's all we have. It's writing and directing. It's all I know how to do.
On that note, right, there's a last question, and I think this is one of the most important questions, right? That right now we are experiencing a very difficult time. We're in the pandemic with COVID-19, and there won't be film festivals for a while. And so, what's the alternative? Like, what's the alternative going forward with all of this happening around us as filmmakers?
The alternative to what? To
making films or set and having production value that we had before because of limitations that we have. I think that's where the person is going, right? Because now you must have a certain number of people on set, and so how creative wise, our creative side, how do we move forward with all of this happening and still making films?
Steph, you've been thinking. I think you can also advise on this.
Yeah, it's a tricky question, but we're in the business of being creative. We are creative people. We will find a way. We will start shooting films that need a smaller crew, a smaller amount of actors if we have to. We'll start telling stories on one set if we have to. We'll find ways around it. I think we'll have to. The film industry as such, the big screens, I think will suffer. But you know what? I hate to say it, but that's been a long time coming. The online platforms have been slowly edging forward and pushing the dinosaurs, like the films that we all love, to the back. And I don't think they'll ever disappear, but it's becoming a niche market. I might be wrong. I don't know if anybody disagrees with me. But we just have to adapt, and we will. It's our nature.
I think on that note, with our film Letters of Hope, it was supposed to be in cinemas on the 20th of May, right? And then COVID happened in March. And it was a bummer because it's the first feature. You're like, oh my God. I want to be on IMDb. We would have been critically acclaimed. We would have, right? And that is a serious setback, and that's money lost as well, right? Because that's a market.
It's money on the left on the table.
Yes, so it's gone. So now you have to find alternative ways of getting something out of this film. So I think going forward with our industry and making films within this pandemic is that we can't give up now, right? And we still need to tell the stories that we need to tell. Now there's Netflix, they are accessible. I think, Disney's coming to Africa. It's this access now. Now there's a lot of people, looking for content, and we can do a direct interaction without the middleman. So I think as much as COVID has affected us, it has actually opened another door of opportunities. So now we know everybody's looking for content, and it's now out in the open. They put it acquisitions, they just put it out to say, we're looking for content in Africa, and now it's your chance to come forward, right? And before, it wouldn't have been like that. We know it would have taken a little bit longer to get there. So I think moving forward in our space is just to see, now there's Netflix, now there's Disney, now there's this, now there's Showmax, now there's, and we can actually now go directly to these people. I think that's what COVID has done for us. Any last piece of advice that you'd like to give to our young females moving into our industry? Doretta?
Oh my goodness.
In the animation
space, animation is a fascinating growing industry, and it's very, very small still. And there's a lot of opportunities opening up there worldwide. And I don't mean you have to compete with Disney and America. And like Steph said earlier, we tend to think the only people we need to compete with are the huge, big Americans. We don't. There are a lot of industries around the world that we can compete with, and in animation, the same. VR, which is virtual reality, is growing. So if there's anybody out there who's great at drawing, great at creating characters, great at creating stories that's good for that, they should explore it and try and get in. Yes.
Thank you. Salamina, last words?
Don't give up. It's very important. Don't get discouraged because the barriers to entry are so high. And also, ask a network. Do the research. Get out there. Don't operate in a silo. You'll always remain small that way. There are people who are open to collaborating, and it's important that you arm yourself with as much knowledge as possible.
Steph?
Yeah. I think I'll say two things. One, again, I'm a realistic person. The industry is very tough. Because sometimes I think we when we have these big dreams, I'm gonna be a this, I'm gonna be a that. Of course. And then you don't realize the amount of work that you put in. Right? So that's one. It is hard. So when it starts getting hard for you, don't think it's you. It is not you. It is the industry. And the second thing I'd like to say is if you want to follow this as a path, as a career path, and you've already made the decision and you've put in the work, don't let anyone make you feel like you don't belong here. You belong here. Your talent is unique. You do bring something to the table. Do not be made to feel like you're disposable or you're not enough. Whatever when you open your mouth, sometimes it might not be the right thing to say in terms of ideas, or it might not be an idea that people end up using, but it might be an idea that leads them to something else that they'll use. So speak up. Don't be scared of your voice. Your voice matters and your voice counts. And yes, you'll get no's, but you'll also get yeses. So those are my
stories are important. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, our stories are very important. Absolutely. So,
yeah.
Thank you so much, ladies. I even took 15 minutes extra of your time. And you were patient and you were great. And you've given great tips to females out there. So one last question is then, what does Women's Day mean to you? And then I can close up. So what does Women's Day mean to you? Steph, what do you hear?
Yes, sure. Women's Day, right? It's probably Women's Day and Freedom Day are probably my two favorite South African holidays, because they remind me of who I am, and the people who came before me, especially Women's Day because of the women who marched to the union buildings. But also what it means for me is what I said earlier, is that all the events that have happened have ensured that today my voice matters. Everything that has happened has allowed me to be able to have this conversation with you and with these wonderful women, but to also be able to say no when I mean no and yes when I mean yes, because somebody died, somebody sacrificed their time, their family, their lives for me to be able to have this life that I have today. So thank you to everyone who has been a part of our history and fought to make sure we have this day.
Salamina?
So I want to answer that question with a quote that I found yesterday. It says, how do I define an inspiring woman? For me, an inspiring woman is simply a woman who can fill somebody with the desire or the urge to do something worthwhile. That's something that creates a better world for others. It's a woman who appreciates life with everything it has got to offer. So the reason I like that quote is because for me, that's what Women's Day is about. It's about understanding that there are so many amazing, amazing women around me. And it's so important that we celebrate each other, and that I allow myself to be inspired by their walks, their experience, their journeys, their stories. That for me is what Women's Day allows. It's like a day where, for me, it's like I shouldn't only do it on Women's Day, but it's that instant reminder that today I will go out of my way to look for those examples of women who touch me on the daily, and I want to celebrate them today.
Thank you. Doretta?
To me, it's a reminder that women are game changers.
Yeah.
We change the world. We change the rules. If we apply ourselves. So I think it's important that each of us do that. And Women's Day reminds me. It makes me look at myself and go, are you doing that? Are you changing the game? And that's it.
Thank you so much. And to close off, I'd like to say again, guys, happy Women's Day. Thank you so much for your time, for tuning in, asking questions, interacting with us, and actually speaking out. I think this was one of the honest talks I've done. It's very real. It's not superficial. It's real realistic stuff, right? And and it was quite a beautiful time, right? I really enjoyed it, and I think we opened day one of Women's Month masterclasses on a really high note. The comments are very encouraging. Everybody who tuned in loved it. Everybody's sending their love to you. They say good luck for all your future endeavors. And yeah, so thank you for your time. And to the GFC, again, thank you so much for this opportunity. It's very rare. I think COVID as well has helped us to be more interactive as filmmakers, to be more accessible to people. The other day, I was looking for Doretta on Instagram. I'm like,
I'm bad with Instagram. I'm sorry. I'm bad with Instagram.
But today you are very accessible. Those who wanted to ask questions, they could. So I think COVID, as much as it's impacted us in a negative way, it has also brought us very closer to each other as humans. So very, very well done, guys. Thank you so much for your time. And the GFC, these classes will be happening until the 18th of August. So guys, please, please, please stay tuned on all the GFC social platforms to see and to learn and to spend more time with the most amazing filmmakers in South Africa to engage with, right, on these platforms. So this is the opportunity for that. This is the time. So thank you so much, and happy Women's Day, everybody.
Thank you, Naledi, and thank you for listening.
Thanks, April. Cheers.
They say life is short. You must live every day as if it's going to be your last.
Pop me up! Let's drink!
That's exactly how I used to live. Until...
Why must I bring you from the zoo, Mommy?
I became a baby mama.
Hey ladies, we slay all day. Hey baby, don't come here with your cheap flattery. Why are you so angry? You know what you need to do? This part of your body, you need to use it to get laid. Get laid.
Who says I am not getting laid? Boutique hotel somewhere.
What's this, Chantal?
A pregnancy test skin and it's positive.
I'm still young and there's things I want to do. There's these new sneakers coming out.
I just expected more from someone who was raised by a single mother.
I still love you, And I know that you like me, but I want you to love me again.
Girl, I was with Caesar. Same Caesar who kicked you out of the house in the middle of the night. He's better.
Ntutuko, would you rather your child goes to bed hungry, Ntutuko?
Of course not, Sandy, but that's not. I don't earn enough money.
I'll see you in court.
Court. Sandy.
Hello? Keenan. He hung up. Caesar, baby, your phone's ringing.
You have no business going through my phone. Get the hell out of my house right now.
I truly believe that there's good men out there.
They are, and they're all after Tolly.
Michael.
Maybe we can grab a bite together.
When are you guys kissing?
Who says we haven't already?
You are such an embarrassment.
Is that how you got pregnant with Tsepo? With a peck on the cheek?
I'm going to keep the baby.
Maybe we can have a weekend away.
Road trip. Road trip. You know you want it.
No matter what they say, girl, I promise I'll love you forever, every night and day. Girl, you color my world like a rainbow.
To the amazing woman in my life, may we find true love. May we appreciate it once we have it. And may we never, ever, ever settle for less.
I love you. Please don't deprive yourself of a sex life because of that baby that's growing in your belly. Please do it.
Thank
and
you,
don't make
John.
another one.
Lemeni ngikhumbuza unyaka utata amadoka angayajaba naye. Vela kutata.
Where did you deliver the letter to? The warning letter, man.
Utata wakho wayesebenzela i-ANC. Wayenginqolo. Utata wakho bambulalela nje into yoba wayenika abantu ithemba. Loo nto nje iyodwa ibonisa uba zibaluleke kanjani ezo leta. Utata wakho ubhubhele iqhawe. Ubhubhele indlela kufa.